Welcome to Pattern and Craft. I'm Courtney, and in today's video I would like to show you how to make this cute little cable stitch that resembles a braid. It is a pretty easy one to create. It only uses 2-row repeats, so 1 row for the front of the work and 1 row for the back of the work. It uses 3 stitches. I have 3 stitches for my cable, and then I've combined it with reverse stockinette. So that is purl stitches on the front and knit stitches on the back. But you could of course incorporate this motif with any other decorative stitch or with a rib or whatever other stitch combination you would like. I'm just going to show you how to create this braid, and it would be great for cowls or scarves or hats or whatever else you want to create. So I will show you how to make this easy, beautiful, simple cable braid right now. So this is a tutorial for the braid itself, so I'm going to go ahead and work my edge stitch and my purl stitches, and when I get to the braid I will zoom in and show you what I'm doing. Okay, I've worked my purl stitches. I am going to be demonstrating in continental knitting. That's the type of knitting I do, but if you knit English style you can just follow the same stitch pattern. Just create the stitches in your own method. So for this repeat, it's going to be knit 1, and then we're going to do sort of a twist stitch or a cable or a cross stitch, however you like to call it. We want this first stitch on the needle here to cross over to the left in front of the second stitch. So to do that, I like to slip both stitches, 1, 2, to the left needle. Insert my left needle into that second stitch, remove both from the right needle, catch that floating stitch with my right needle, and actually I just leave it there. I don't need to do anything else because my yarn's in back, so it's slipping 1 stitch with yarn in back, and now this stitch is on my left needle ready to knit 1. And that's all we have to do on the front of the work. Now I'll purl to the next section and show you that one more time. It is only 3 stitches, but with the crossing over it gets a little bit confusing until you've seen it a couple times. So again, it's just going to be a simple knit 1, and then we need to cross this first stitch over to the left in front of this second stitch. So we're going to move both to the right needle purlwise with yarn in back. We're going to insert that left needle into the front of the second stitch on the right needle. We're going to briefly remove our right needle from both stitches and then pick up the one that's floating and just bring it over, and that creates a slip 1 with yarn in back, and then knit 1. Again, I'm going to purl over to the next cable. I know I make my purls a little unusually. I do have a video for that if you're interested. Again, the pattern on the right side is knit 1, slip 2 to the right needle, insert left into the front of the second stitch, switch the order, slip 1 with yarn in back for this stitch, and then knit the last of the 3 stitches for your cable. That's it. That's the front of the work. That is a pretty simple stitch pattern, and I will show you in a moment what to do on the back. Okay, so in the back of my work, those purl stitches are actually knit stitches because we're working on the other side, so I'm knitting in between my cables. So here I've come to the 3 stitches that will create my cable, and the first stitch is a purl 1, so just purl that first stitch. Then instead of crossing to the left, this time we're going to cross to the right. So I like to do it this way. Insert your needle into both stitches as if you were going to knit 2 together. Lift both stitches off the left needle and then catch that first one on the right needle back onto the left, also knitwise, the same way we took it off. So we have not twisted the stitch. We lifted it off knitwise and we put it back on knitwise. So it's basically just holding the stitch for us. And now our second stitch is first on the right needle, and we are not going to work it because we need to do a slip one with yarn in front. So we just immediately go into that stitch that we have here, that third stitch, and we're going to purl that one. So that's all we need to do for the back of the work. And then knit between if you're doing reverse stockinette like me. And I'm going to show you that one more time. So bring the yarn to the front and purl one. Then we want to cross to the right. So we're going to insert as if to knit two together, lift the stitches, replace the first stitch on the right needle back onto the left needle. That brings this stitch across to the right in front of the second stitch. So now it is the first stitch. We simply skip that stitch. Our yarn's in front, so that creates a slip one with yarn in front. And we purl that third stitch of the cable. So purl, slip one with yarn in front, purl. But we also switched the order of those two stitches. And then we continue on. And then I did my stitches in between, and one more time, it's purl one, cross to the right, skip this one, and purl. That's it. So if you just keep repeating those two rows, you will achieve this braided cable. You will see here that those slipped stitches become a little bit longer than a normal stitch, and then you don't have two stitches here, you just have one. So you have them crossing over each other and being slipped. So you get these little bit of elongated stitches that are braided together. And it makes a really beautiful little cable that you can use in your knitting however you choose to do so. I hope you enjoyed this knitting tutorial. I have several knitting tutorials now and lots of crochet tutorials, and then my older videos are friendship bracelet related. I like to work with a lot of different textile crafts, and I also do podcasts occasionally showing what I'm working on, so check back for more content like this, and I'll see you next time. Happy crafting!
There is no next thing. There's only this thing that you're doing right now. What I mean is, I was wiring a plug socket in my house the other day, and I always get agitated whenever I'm messing with electrics. I don't know why. It's those fiddly little things that you have to do, like stripping the wires and turning those tiny little screws. You're always hunched over at a mega awkward angle. I guess it's the posture you end up in. I remember reading a book on Zen once, and it said, if you can't control your posture, you can't control your mind. So maybe that's what makes you so agitated. Anyway, so I noticed that I was starting to feel this agitation that I always feel. And this time I made a mental effort to instead focus on just the one task at hand, because I could feel myself beginning to wish that I was doing anything else, and I just wanted this to be over. And that's when you start rushing things and making mistakes. So I caught myself, and I thought, at that moment I was attaching some wires to the back of the plug socket that I just ripped out the wall. And I thought to myself, this is the only thing you have going on in your life right now, and therefore it's the most important thing that you have going on in your life right now. And then as soon as I thought that, the task was no longer tedious, it was no longer daunting, it was just what I was doing. That was all I had to do. I wasn't thinking about the next step in the process, or what I was going to do once all of this was over, or even things that had happened earlier in the day. All I was focusing on was what I was doing. And I decided that I was going to do that one step to the best of my ability and get those wires into the back of that socket. And then once that was done, and it was done perfectly, couldn't have been done better, I moved on to the next step in the process. This is the way you have to be with absolutely everything, all the time. You have to make a conscious effort to be present and do the thing that you're doing with full, total concentration. Because as soon as I did that, it became a joy. It might have actually taken me twice as long to get it done as it would have if I was just doing it, just doing what I needed to do. But it became my world, it became everything to me. As mundane of a task as it was everything. So certain things in life will bring you into that space that you need to be in without you having to think about it. Like any time you're in control of something moving at high speed and there's that element of danger, you naturally become focused on that one thing, and everything outside of that just ceases to exist. And if you want to get into that space when you're not flying across concrete at high speed, you have to make that conscious effort to put yourself into that space as if your life depended on it. Because when you do that, you do your best work and you enjoy it no matter what it is. And it's not just focusing on that thing that you're doing, it's getting really specific and breaking the thing you're doing down into the moment within the thing that you're doing. So you're not just doing the dishes, you're scrubbing the plate and you're rinsing the plate. You know what I mean? And all of this seems so obvious, but the hard part is catching yourself and actually sticking to it. Because it's so easy to get distracted by another thought or to look forward to whatever is next, but there is no next, there's only now. And then once you've focused on the thing that you're doing, then you have to try not to think about the thing that you're doing. So instead of thinking, I'm turning the screw, you have to become one with the screw and the action of turning it. This is something that drawing mandalas has helped me train. Sometimes I think I'm getting bored of drawing mandalas, but because it's kind of a monotonous activity, drawing a mandala, you're literally going around in circles. But I keep coming back to them, and I guess it's not because I want to make something that looks cool or has a message or anything like that. I'm training that side of me that wants to be present when I'm not drawing mandalas. I mean, that's what you're doing with sitting meditation, isn't it? You're training your mind to be still, even outside of meditation. But when you're drawing a mandala, as repetitive as it may seem, you're training your mind while actually doing something. So really, it's probably more effective than sitting with your eyes closed. And after a while, it stops being repetitive and it becomes immersive. It doesn't matter how long it's going to take because there's nothing else going on. This is the only thing in your life, drawing this mandala, and it's nourishing the spirit.
Welcome to the Knitting Ideas channel. My name is Juliana, and today I want to show you how to make a beautiful ribbed edge for knitting a 1/1 rib pattern. This edge looks very nice and neat. It's easy to make, holds its shape well, and doesn't bunch up. You can also make this edge when knitting in the round. Here, I use knitting needles a full size smaller for cast on, so the edge turned out a little tighter than when knitting in a circular pattern. So, let's get started knitting together. To knit in circular pattern, take a spare yarn in a contrasting color and cast on an odd number of stitches using any method. For the sample, I cast on 11 stitches. Turn the knitting. Knit 1 preparatory row. Slip the edge stitch and purl all stitches. You've knitted 1 preparatory row. Now take the main color yarn and knit the first edge stitch. Then continue knitting with knit stitches. Knit the last edge stitch as a purl stitch. We have knitted the first row. Turn the knitting. Knit the second row. Remove the edge stitch and knit all the stitches as purl stitches. That is, we need to knit 4 rows in total using the stockinette stitch. Knit the third row as knit stitches, and knit the fourth row as purl stitches.
This is a beautiful book.
Hello friends, I'm Shannon Makes, and today we'll be looking at the long and fascinating history of wartime knitting from a mainly North American perspective. We're going to touch on the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, Little Women, knitting in espionage, how linguistics played a role in knitting styles, and more. We've got a lot to cover, so let's jump right in, shall we? The project that sparked this research rabbit hole was this pattern from World War II, but knitting for soldiers had been going on for centuries by that point. The origins of knitting as a fiber art dates back to at least the 5th century AD, but for the sake of your time and my sanity, I'm going to start with the American Civil War. Many of us in the historical costuming community are familiar with Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, and that may be the first instance that comes to mind when thinking about knitting for the soldiers. Alcott introduces readers to the charity knitting of the March Sisters in the first pages of Little Women, and while her characters can only help the war effort from afar, Alcott herself at the age of 30 served as a Civil War nurse and, according to the diary of the hospital's head nurse, apparently a pretty good one. Knitting features prominently in her book as it did in real life. In the North as well as the South, knitting needles clicked non-stop during the Civil War years, and it turns out that many of the issues that these early knitters faced would in fact resurface in future conflicts as well. In the summer of 1861, South Carolina resident Mary Chestnut wrote in her diary, "I do not know when I have seen a woman without knitting in her hand." And indeed, ladies from all levels of society picked up their knitting needles, both in an effort to keep their loved ones warm and dry, but also because it was deemed an appropriate way for women to express their patriotism while safely remaining in the domestic sphere. The organization and collection of the resulting knitted goods was handled on a very local level, with numerous small independent aid societies and committees being formed in every state. The Daily Richmond Enquirer suggested that in every county and every community, societies should be formed at once, which suggestion is meeting with hearty response. Local newspapers further encouraged participation by emphasizing the romantic potential of such efforts, a trick which seemed to work, as Mary Livermore recounts in her memoir, My Story of the War. Taking inventory at her local aid society and the boxes and boxes of garments that were coming in, she wrote, "Another mammoth packing case was opened, and here were folded in blessings and messages of love with almost every garment. Large packages of socks, carefully folded in pairs in the same box, contained each a note, beautifully written and signed with the name and address of the writer. They were as various as the authors."
Hello, it's Susan Crawford here. I would like to welcome you to month 2 of our Colourwork CAL, and I hope you're all enjoying knitting your colourwork projects. Today, I'd like to share with you my favourite method of knitting stranded colourwork in the round with 2 colours. So to do that, first of all, I need to share with you what my chosen project for the knit along is. It's taken me a lot of changing of mind and trying to decide what the best thing to knit would be. And after a lot of crossing off lists and changing my mind, I have made the decision to knit a garment from Stitch in Time Volume 2. This is a nice change for me because obviously I've knitted a lot from Volume 3 over the last couple of years. And I've been looking forward to revisiting one of the pieces from this book for a long, long time. So I shall show you now which project it is I'm going to knit. So I have decided to knit the ladies' sleeveless Fair Isle pullover. Or jumper. I'm not sure which it is actually because I can't see the page. But this is a wonderful example of a 1940s vest or tank top or sleeveless pullover, and it is knitted in the round throughout using 2 colours at most on any one round. And this is going to be the example that I'm going to show you today. So first of all, I'm just going to explain a little bit about the way the charts work when you're working in the round. I'm going to show you my iPad, but we'll also do a little close-up on screen, which you might see on either side of me to follow better. So these are the charts for the pullover that I am working on. And you can see here that there are a choice of 3 charts. Now that's because there is a chart for doing a short length, a medium length or a long length. So you only ever have to use one of these 3 charts. Now, when you are working from a chart that's in the round, where it differs from working from a chart when you work in flat is that you follow every single line of that chart by reading from right to left. You do not need to knit every other line of the chart from left to right like you do when you're working flat. And this means that you can actually follow the flow of the pattern clearly. And that's really all the difference there is. So when you're reading the chart, just remember that you are going to work from right to left on line 1 and then exactly the same again on line 2. Now with our patterns, we also have a pattern repeat box in red around the section of the pattern that you are going to keep repeating around the garment. Now, usually when you're working a sweater, or a sleeveless pullover like I'm going to be doing, that repeat just works evenly right around the garment. So you will just work that pattern repeat however many times it tells you to do so in the pattern, or just to the end of the round. And then you just start the next line and you do the same again, commencing with stitch 1 to wherever the pattern repeat ends, and then you go back to stitch 1 and work that pattern repeat again, and so on. So that's all that part of the pattern is telling you to do. As we work up this pattern, we will also be introducing steeks. So a little bit later on in a future tutorial, I will show you how to add steeks into a pattern when you're already working in the round, as I know that's a question that's come up from a few of you, so I will look at that in the next tutorial. But for now, we're now going to use this chart and we are going to start knitting in the round with our 2 colours. Okay, so I have started my first round of colourwork knitting, and this is a nice introductory round because it uses the background that we'd already been knitting in with our first contrast colour, which is yarn A here. Now, it also has a nice repeat of just 3 stitches in one colour, then 3 stitches in the other, so we don't have to think too much even about the pattern that we're working. But what you hopefully can see here is that I am holding one colour in my right hand and I am holding the other colour in my left hand. So yeah, I'll just show you that again. You can see that I have one colour in my right hand and the other colour held in my left hand. Now, the way I approach this is always the same. It doesn't matter what the colour actually is. What matters is whether it is the background colour or whether it is the foreground or what I call the pattern.